Welcome to episode 216 of Saturday Football Uncensored, brought to you by Saturday Down South and Texas Pete. On today's episode, we preview and predict conference champions and bring in special guest Drew Butler to talk the SEC championship game. You can find this show on our website, SaturdayDownSouth.com, and Apple and Spotify. Don't forget to join us for the live show, recording of the show every Sunday at 8 Eastern Time on the Saturday Down South YouTube page. And now, here's the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Saturday Football Uncensored, brought to you by Saturday Down South and Texas Pete. I'm your host, Tyler Huck, and with me, as always, my co-host, Chris Marler. Chris,
oh my God,
this is the last week of the quote-unquote regular season. This is technically postseason, but
I'm so scared.
Me too.
You too. I'm not used to you having this much on the line.
Usually we're like, just missed the Independence Bowl this year.
Dude, so it's award season, you know. So I had to submit some of my awards for. I think I did Maxwell, Bednarik, and Groza so far. And
did you vote for my boy Ryan Fitzgerald? He's not even on the top three. Did you have Ray Guy?
Yeah. No, I didn't get Ray Guy.
Oh,
yeah. It would just be the punter from Iowa, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
If you can score 18 points a game and go 10-2, the punter has to be one of the best punters.
They scored 18 points per game.
Yeah.
Have you seen the total? I sent you a text last night about it, the team total.
It's just incredible. I mean, one of the most incredible.
Why?
For both halves, right?
Both halves. So Vegas is like, do you think they will score a single solitary point? There was a game that Michigan played earlier this year. I screenshotted and sent it to you. I think it was Michigan State, where it was like they had I don't know. It was something weird but I remember seeing it. And it was like their first half was 27. Their team total in the first half was 27, and Michigan State was 0.5. And I was like, I don't think I've ever seen that before. And now Iowa's in a conference championship is 0.5 for both. Whatever.
Yeah. I saw the team total was 6.5. I was like, you know what? They do have a good defense. Maybe they have a pick six, fumble return, kick return. They got a good punt returner.
Yeah.
You can't just score one touchdown. You're 6.5 point team total.
It's unreal.
Unreal is right. We have a lot to get into tonight. But before we get our special guest on to talk SEC championship, I want to talk a little bit about the portal opening up for grad students to transfer. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks hit the portal. Some that I think are actually pretty damn good. We saw Max Johnson commit to UNC today. I don't know if you saw that. Will Howard from Kansas State is out there in the portal. Tyler Van Dyke from Miami. Will Rogers, Mississippi State. Max Brown, the kid that Florida was starting the last two games of the year, he's out. KJ Jefferson, rumors he may or may not go in the portal.
That is shocking.
It's shocking to me that he still has eligibility. He can still play.
Well, it's up for debate. Wait, hold on. Have we talked since the last episode about Bobby Petrino?
We mentioned it last night on the rankings reaction, but just an incredible feat.
Against all odds.
All odds.
That is the equivalent of the what do you call it that you see always on what do you call it? The IG reel.
Always on what do you call it?
The IG reel where it's like somebody walks back into their friend group's house after she swore she was done with dating this dude, and then she's like, I'll never give him another chance again. And then this guy walks back in.
Yeah.
This is the greatest season of Bachelor in Paradise we are ever about to witness.
It's why college football still remains the best sport of all time. It's just you don't see this kind of stuff in any other sport.
No. I mean, you see rotating revolving doors of the same coaches. We joke around about that a lot. Muschamp and Bobo and some of those guys. But this is next level. This is next level. So
I argue that he should show up to his introductory press conference with a neck brace. Roll in a motorcycle, neck brace, and then just take it off. I'm just goofing, y'all. Y'all remember me?
Y'all remember me? Come on. I don't know
Y'all
why
got any
he
staffers
gave him
around here? I'm just playing. You know, we got no care about Blue Pig.
misbehaving.
Uh,
Off the
yeah.
rails already.
So I don't know. Maybe KJ Jefferson decides to stay now that the great Bobby Petrino is his OC.
So I thought that was like my first thought. I was like, that's a perfect thing for him to do and I thought the choice would be he's either going to go pro or he's going to come back and play another year under Bobby Petrino. And then we found out this morning that it's rumored Brad Crawford from 247 Sports, actually a former SCS employee. He's a South Carolina guy, and he said it's rumored that this championship week banner looks good. This looks good today. He said it was rumored that he was going to go to South Carolina, and then KJ Jefferson threw up like an Instagram story where he was like, "There's nothing finalized yet. Like I haven't said anything." Like that whole thing is kind of crazy to me, but I think that he's someone I respect enough that where he wouldn't have just said it. Brad Crawford just wouldn't have said that if there wasn't some sort of rumors to it. I tell you the one that has surprised me that hasn't gotten more traction is Will Howard. Will Howard is one of the most, I think, underrated quarterbacks in the country. Has been for
I wonder if that coach is going somewhere because he's transferring. The kid that was there at the running back that transferred out of Florida State was there for a year. He's transferring out now. There's like a bunch of Kansas State players randomly transferring.
I don't understand that at all. Hold on, I'm pulling up Will Howard right now. This is like, and I feel like he also, he had 9 touchdowns on the ground. So this season alone, he had 33 total touchdowns. You look at his passing numbers. He had one game where he struggled like early on, especially. He had 7 interceptions in his first 5 games. After that, so after the midway point, in his final 6 games, this kid had 15 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That was one of the things I remember. This one of the things that I remember looking at last year. I think it was like a prop bet for bowl season. Was his over was 1.5 passing touchdowns, and it was like that in like almost every single game, like in the Big 12 championship and some other stuff, like things like that. He's consistently been putting up like a lot of points for whoever he's in charge of, right? Like half the season a year ago in 2022, almost every game he had at least 2 passing touchdowns. I think he's like very, very underrated. I'm surprised that more has not been made of him being in the portal.
Yeah, well, Grayson McCall is now in the portal as well. There's going to be. I just wonder if a team. It's just so interesting. There's so many dynamics to each team. Like I think about Florida. So Max Brown transfers out. You got presuming Graham Mertz comes back next year. He had a pretty good year this year, like a lot better than I think most people thought he would have done at Florida. But then it's like, is that really going to get you through their gauntlet next year, or do you take a shot at like a Will Howard or a KJ Jefferson?
No, Mertz is your guy.
KJ Jefferson would be perfect for Napier's offense. He's not as athletic as Anthony Richardson, but he's a much better passer, and he's a different style runner. But I mean,
I don't know, man. I just kind of feel like the way that him aligning with what they have at South Carolina makes more sense. But here's the other thing too: is like
South Carolina,
nothing on the offensive line. So if you can't upgrade there, at least get a quarterback that's basically indestructible.
True, it works out well for them. I don't know how well that works out for him.
I mean, I agree, but we've already also seen them take a very high profile name from a Power 5 starting position and then have some success with them. And I think Spencer Rattler is like, he's had a lot of success there. So I don't know if he's the right fit. The one that makes the most sense to me, Riley Leonard leaving to go to either Notre Dame or Auburn. Riley Leonard or Grayson McCall. I think Grayson McCall, honestly, more than Riley Leonard, is a perfect fit for Hugh Freeze's offense.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. I think Riley Leonard is too, though. I mean, that kid when healthy he does, but I mean, Freeze implements that, doesn't he?
Not as much.
Wasn't Swag Kelly running around all over the place?
Yeah, but Bo Wallace wasn't.
Well, Bo Wallace has other things going on these days.
He's like me.
Yeah, he's like just fighting people on Twitter. He is like you on X.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. Just the portal season, and this is the only people that can transfer right now are grad students. December 4th is
Right.
when the portal actually opens up to everybody, and I think it's just going to be crazy how many people. Dion's seeing a lot of guys transfer out. Um, it's just going to be an interesting couple weeks.
Hold on. With Dion, before we bring in our guest. Dion, did I read correctly? They were playing games this season without proper healthcare coverage?
Yeah, like disability insurance in case there's an injury. Yeah, it's tough.
You're a better adult than I am. I need you to go into that right now.
So disability insurance you can buy in case you get injured and you can't work. You can still make a paycheck.
Affleck.
Um, and you have that, yes. A lot of employers will just give their employees that because
Yeah.
it's a nice thing to do for a benefit for the employee.
Right.
Um, a lot of colleges now, especially with NIL, since these kids are making money or they're protecting their future value in the NFL if they're star kids on the team, like a
Yeah.
Travis Hunter at Colorado. If they have like Jordan Travis going down with the injury, I think it's going to be okay for his prospects for the NFL. But if it wasn't, his disability policy would pay out, or maybe you would have gone in the first round, but because of your injury, you went in the fourth round, you lost this amount of money, so we're going to pay you that.
Mhm.
There's things in place so these kids don't have a career-ending injury and they're just left on the street. Colorado, in this case, decided, meh, it's an added expense we don't really need, you know?
That's unreal.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another thing we never even talked about, which is still wild to me, is that like Arizona had a budget error where they accidentally spent like $250 million more than they had. That's
Yeah.
insane. 250?
Can you
They
imagine
forgot
that meeting? Like the guy that
A&M.
the CFO for the athletics department, he's like, they're in the meeting, they're like, "Some just didn't add up." He's like, the
Oh my
decimal,
gosh.
I accidentally moved it over 2 spots. Actually, 4 spots."
Yeah, that's
That's
not
tough.
good.
Last thing I wanted to mention before we start breaking out some of these games,
Mhm.
you see that Georgia's DB coach, who has been one of the premier recruiters for the Georgia staff, is leaving for the Syracuse head coaching job.
I did. I love that.
So
I
that's
hope
a
he has both feet out the door.
right, yeah. Um, Now Kirby is a DB coach himself, so I don't know how much
Yeah, that'll be fine.
really matters, but um, been rumored that Florida fired Corey Raymond after 1 year. That was supposed to be like an all-star hire.
What?
Rumors that Georgia may try to replace Fran Brown with Corey Raymond
God.
potentially. So we'll see. It's going to be like the college football offseason these days with the portal and like all the coaches moving is almost just as fun as the season sometimes.
It's starting to get that way. I think like at first it does feel like a lot is happening and it's hard to keep up with. But
Yeah.
I think this is easier for me at least to watch and keep track of because it's in season, right? Like
Mhm.
what I do not like is that like that little time from like April to August where you're like, hold on, so and so is where now? I feel like an old man learning about like his like
Yeah.
daughter's friends or something. It's like, so Missy's the one that plays soccer. Okay,
Because I
no,
logged
man.
into Bookface the other day and I swear to God I saw yeah. It's
Um,
weird. It's these guys like Phil Steele that put out the preseason magazines, like, they're having to change things, like, right up until they're
I don't know
shipping
how
out.
they do it.
Yeah.
I, man,
Like, Keon Coleman transferred to Florida State, I think in, like, May,
yeah,
and they've got those things pretty much ready to go start printing before then, like, because it's after the spring games and, like,
right.
"Alright, this is the roster." And then, like, that's a pivotal piece of the pie for Florida State, and, like, he just wasn't even around for spring ball.
Phil Steele, we love Phil Steele, and he's
Oh,
awesome. But the more information that comes out, the more like information that I need to know, I feel like the less I get from Phil Steele as the years go on because like the thing just becomes more and more words about him being like. Let's not forget, last year I said this was going to be my seventh best, most improved team in the Southern Hemisphere, and I
yeah,
wasn't there far off. They finished fifth. You're like,
yeah,
all right,
yeah, it is a lot of the most accurate predictions the last 15 years running.
He needs to also fucking fall in line with the recruiting rankings because even then he has like his position rankings that are his own. So it's like he was like the position unit ranking number 226, and I'm like, so much math.
It's a lot of information. I won't stop buying the magazine though. It's just a
No,
yearly.
for sure. I will also tell you now that we're still waiting on Drew, and we're talking about bragging about ourselves. I finished the month on Twitter with 10.6 million impressions, which
That's
is
crazy. You're gonna get a check in the mail.
no, I'm not. Tyler. You know that in the first month when they started doing that, like in August, I made like several $100s, and I had like 6 million views. I think I had like it's in August I did like 6.5, 6.9 the next month, and then 6. And he just changed like the numbers on it. So like the first month I was like, oh my, this is like like it basically be like a little bit of a side hustle because it's like you're bringing in several extra $100 that for just tweeting. And then like last month I think I did like 7 million and I got like a check for $19.98 in my Chase account. I was like, thanks, Grandma.
Feels like 98.
It was like 98, brother.
All right. Well, while we're waiting for Drew, do we want to go into the Friday game before we get to the Saturday slate?
No, because as soon as he gets here, we're gonna start talking about this one.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we could also talk a little bit. We talked a bunch about it last night, but turns out I might have overreacted a little bit about the playoff rankings.
Yeah.
That comes as a shock. Well, Ohio State, that was still the funniest part of the entire episode.
Yeah, that was great. That was funny.
There's no way. There's no way they make it. And you were like, there's a pretty clear path. So that was something. I will say that
if anything, the path historically would be much tougher for Texas and Alabama because the lowest seed going into conference champion week that's ever made it is a 6 seed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, man. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think this weekend. I'm honestly not just because I'm a Bama guy. I'm hoping for chaos, just because I would like there to be chaos. Drew looks fucking pissed. So, but yeah, man, I'm just hoping for chaos. What if we just like wrote it out and just didn't bring him in? Just like let him stay in like the waiting room and see how long it took for him to say anything. And as soon as he texted, just be like, "Not now, Drew. We're in the middle of something."
What's up, fellas? How are y'all?
Good, man. Good.
Just honored to get the invite. I was hoping and praying after it turned to championship week. I was like, maybe Chris and Tyler will invite me on. It seems like a pretty important week. So thanks, boys.
It's the first person I reached out to. Thank you.
Are you sure about that?
I don't know why you keep saying this. Like last time you brought this up, you're like, I wonder how many people I had asked beforehand.
Well, when you text me, when you text me, you're like, hey, I'm doing a podcast in 3 minutes. Can you come on? I was like, all right, I get it. That's okay. I'm in the game too. I get it.
Because I'm bad at planning. Look at my life. I mean, yeah. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it.
I usually find out about the guests about 3 minutes before the pod as well.
Yeah.
So if it makes you feel any better.
Tyler, let me just, allow me to offer an olive branch. It's just such a bummer what happened to Jordan Travis. I've been one of Florida State's biggest supporters all season long. And now just listening to all the analysts and the talking heads on TV, you're reading the tea leaves.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're going to get boned one way or another on Sunday. And I hate it.
I agree. I've been telling my buddies back from school, I'm just like, it just seems like ESPN is setting up the narrative. They've been doing it for the last couple. As soon as Travis got hurt, they're like, you can't let him in, can you?
Yeah.
And it's like, it is all about the ratings, as much as Herb Street wants to get on there and fight we got to get the 4 best. It's like, no, they're going to get the best ratings.
An impassioned Herb Street, getting fired up. I was like, damn.
For Bama. Just flat out, huh?
Yeah. So
that reaction to 4th and 31 was awesome.
Yeah, that was okay. So I was doing our Saturday night show on Atlanta News First, and when we're sitting in the studio because it's the local CBS feed, we're watching it on the TVs, but we're about to go on, so we have our earpieces in, so we're hearing the audio like a good 15 seconds before what we're seeing on TV. So we're watching it, and it's 4th and goal, and I'm just hearing Nestler and Danielson going crazy into my ear, and I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me! I cannot wait to see how this turns out." So I'm hearing it happen. He caught it back in the end zone, and then it's like the ball's getting snapped. I was like, "Oh my god, here we go!" So that was a wild game.
I will say, man, it really is like there's like few times like a Bama fan that you feel like you can like kind of like really gloat in like a way that's not super douchey. And I think this is like one of those things. It was like really cool because you just don't have those moments you're a Georgia guy, so we've had a couple of those moments against Georgia, but like,
well, yeah, you most certainly have. I thought the most telling part of that game, and even the way Auburn played Georgia, is that's the number one reason why they hired Hugh Freeze.
Yep.
It's because Hugh Freeze has had success against Kirby Smart while he was at Alabama, and of course, he's not afraid of Nick Saban. So you just go to show, without the most talented teams and without the highest expectations, the two best games they played all season long were against Georgia and Alabama. Granted, they were both at home, but I think it just shows, if you wanted to take any optimism out of that game, if you're an Auburn fan, I think it gives you a little bit of hope for the future.
Well, I don't want any of them to have any optimism.
I could tell by your Twitter feed. My goodness. I was like,
what did I do?
This dude is, it was exhausting. Following you on Twitter.
Institutionalized sometimes, it feels like.
Yeah.
I need to be what?
Institutionalized. That's it.
I have. This is a little behind the scenes. I said this finally yesterday to New Alley. I said, "Listen,
don't call that. She don't. Okay. I bet she doesn't like it."
Where were you watching the game?
Where was I?
Yeah, where were you?
So I had been dog sitting for my parents' house for like 2 or 3 weeks. Right, they're in Greece. They decided to come back early. So I was like, okay, well, I got like already planning on being here. Like I've got like all my stuff. Like I'm gonna watch the game from over here.
Okay.
Drew, I tell you, like they don't give a shit about college football, right? Yeah. Right. Like my stepdad, he'll pull for Georgia, and he like knows a lot about like football and like knows a lot about everything, to be honest. But like I am sitting here and I'm like a nervous wreck. And I'm watching at their house, and I'm like,
keep in mind that your Auburn girlfriend was supposed to be there watching the game with you.
Yes.
Which would have been an all-time moment.
Good. Yeah, good for you. I mean, that was probably the right decision.
Yes, thank God.
Yeah,
that was, thank God. But like, we're sitting there, and I was like, I'm gonna have to watch this in here with you guys. I'm like, I'm sorry. And I was telling Tyler, I look over, and my stepdad is sitting in this recliner, and I'm like pacing and blah blah. And I walk back in after they fumble the punt. I go, I gotta watch this in here with you guys. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. And he just like slowly reclines up and just like dips. And I was like, yeah, it's fair. That's very fair. But no, so like when it happened, because I just like as soon as they got down there, I was like, okay, maybe something can happen. Maybe something can happen. And then that bad snap, I was like, this is wild. And I was on like the most delay. So I was watching it like in the corner of like this extra room.
Yeah.
And no one said a word in the house. And I just let out. I was like, oh, freaking out. It was awesome.
I'll tell you what, though, this is the last thing we'll say about that game because it's in the past and we're on to the SEC championship. But by succeeding on 4th and goal from the 31, nobody's talking about the boneheaded mistake Jalen Milroe made by crossing the line of scrimmage, coming back, throwing, had to burn a timeout, lost another 10 yards. I was like, he really bailed himself out. And again, it was an amazing play. So more credit to him, I guess. Bama just finds a way.
I'm going to also tell you right now, and I don't think this is any secret, okay? I think I've been okay for a lot of the times this year. But if Bama beats Georgia this weekend, if you thought the Iron Bowl was insufferable, you need to mute me for.
But what would your reasoning be behind that? I mean, by all accounts, Alabama, by far and away, a better team than Auburn.
Yeah,
like there was so much more to lose in that game.
Right.
So I mean, to each their own. Like, do your thing, absolutely.
Why was I being a dick to Auburn fans?
Well, that's expected.
Yeah. I also had like a ton of. I drank a lot that night. I'll be honest with you. And also, like, I mean, like,
time and a place.
It just became one of those things. Yeah, time and a place to like maybe put the thumbs away though, also, which I have not done a good job of at times. Because I think that like
that's what pays the bills, man. You can't. Yeah, you come on.
Bro, you should put them in the little thumb slots. You still got that?
This is the same shirt. I haven't taken it off since like the last 3 weeks. It's good luck.
Stinky Chris Marler.
That's so rude.
Love it.
All right, let's get into this game. So I think that going into it, it is. Am I crazy, or does it seem like there's not as much being talked about this week with it, as opposed?
It doesn't feel as big as it has been in the past, and I think it's just because Georgia's been on such a run, and maybe it's like, all right, Bama maybe like Bama was kind of written off for the first half of the year.
Yeah.
And then they got a lot better in the second half, and then they have the close game against Auburn. Maybe people think it's not going to be a close game. I don't really know, but it's not getting a lot of hype.
Are you
Like
talking about just in the general consensus of the college football landscape? Like in years past, Georgia, Alabama, it almost seemed like that de facto national championship type setting.
Right.
I think it has to do with a lot more of the consequences of the college football playoff, depending on what happens in the other games.
Right.
You know, like Friday night, we're going to learn a lot. And then Saturday midday, like I think the Texas line is way out of whack. 15.5 points. Are you kidding me? And then rolling into that Alabama-Georgia game, I mean, what you're hearing right now, and I agree with them to a point. The phrases we're hearing are 1, eye test, 2, most deserving, and then 3, best team. And the college football playoff committee keeps backing themselves into a corner by saying, you know, we never talk about most deserving team. They do mention eye test, which to me is crazy that they're the ones mentioning eye test. And now they're doubling down saying it's all about the best team. Well, now you have people who are very educated and understand the game very well. You know, 2 off the top of my head are Josh Pate and Kirk Herbstreit, who are saying, okay, you're putting it out there. If you're truly going to go with best team, and this game this weekend between Georgia and Alabama is expected to be, as we all come to expect it, a knockdown, drag out, just heavyweight fight. Look, if it comes down to the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, you cannot convince me that these are not 2 of the best teams in college football.
Right.
I'm sorry. So if that's what it is, you know, Tyler, I'm sorry. Florida State probably on the outside looking in. Oregon, Washington, winner of that game probably gets in, of course. And then it's probably going to be Texas. I don't know. But I think the reason why this game is not getting the hype that it has in years past is because there's so much else going on outside of this game that will determine who the final 4 teams are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think, like, for me, I thought at first, I was like, I wonder if it's just because they're just so dead set on Georgia being the best team in the country. And it's hard not to be, right? Like they are the best team in the country, whether it be by resume, in my opinion. But like I was arguing again on Twitter, of course, today, and there was like a Penn State fan talking about how like the Big Ten strength the schedule, and I was like, man, you look at like just from a ranked opponent standpoint, Georgia has beaten more teams that are ranked this month than Penn State, for instance, who's top 10, has beaten in the last 4 years combined.
I mean, that's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right. It's only 3, but it's still insane.
And there's a lot to be said too. I totally agree with that. But there's a lot to be said, and I think all coaches in the SEC would say it. Kirby Smart has been very vocal about it this year. Hey, if you're talking trash about the SEC, come play it. Because I'm afraid it might not be what you expect week in and week out. So, you know, I did think it was also interesting, and I was one of the only ones who thought to myself, well, I don't know, maybe you guys were in the same line of thinking. I was like, I'm really interested to see if they move Michigan to number 1 this week.
Yeah.
Because that would have allowed the committee with Georgia being at 2 to then bounce them to 5 if they were to lose this game.
Right.
And Alabama, and then they could have really shuffled some things. The one thing that I do I believe this in my heart of hearts, and I know why they don't do it, but what would the ratings be like if they televised the last college football playoff committee meeting so the public could just see what the debates are, see what the conversations are? And it's okay. We're not that smart. We don't know everything. We know you're college administrators. Like, you don't have the nuclear codes. You know, you're not solving world peace. Like, let us in the conversation. We're not going to be able to change anything about what you're saying. I just want to know what the hell is being said in those meetings. What points are being brought up? Who's on what side? It would be fascinating. It would be funny. And ultimately, I think, Chris and Tyler, it would be sad. We'd all be like, wow, I can't believe these are the people who are deciding the final 4 teams.
Luke Corrigan is drinking fucking Fresca right now and Tad Cola. Like, this guy sucks.
It's unbelievable. And you know, that's why, like, put it on C-SPAN. I don't give a shit. I want to see what they're saying. I don't care if it lasts 8 hours. I think it needs to be shown to the American public. This much, I promise you.
I love that.
That's just what I think.
All right, well, let's get into this game.
We're trying to get into the game. I've got my notes here. I come prepared.
Alrighty.
Sound like me. I love it.
I was taking a look at some of the advanced metrics, and I was trying to see kind of maybe the biggest difference between like kind of the best unit for one team and the worst for the other, and see kind of where this game would be won? Where is that in your regard? Like, is it the Bama defense against the Georgia offense, or is it what do you think is the biggest mismatch here?
The biggest mismatch is Jalen Milroe's athleticism and Georgia's perimeter defense vulnerabilities. I mean that's what it is, and I don't think anybody would go into this game and not say the most important thing is to limit Jalen Milroe's impact on the game. I was asked today in an interview, what's the number one thing you like about Georgia's defense? And I said, their in-game adjustments. There's no surprise that in the last 6 games or maybe even 7 games, the opponent scored first. Georgia's able to make really quick adjustments, and then even more so coming out of halftime. I just taped with Jake Fromm, punt and pass, and I was like, Jake, how do you stop Jalen Milroe? And he like kind of chuckles. He's like, well, I mean, I guess here's what you can try to do. I mean, there's no real way how you can do it. And what it comes down to is your edge rushers rush to contain. And Jake said the interior linemen have really got to push and get up in his face to make things collapse, not to flush him out, because that's the worst case scenario. He's like, you have to collapse the pocket, and then God forbid you're able to get a hand on him, bring him down, which saying out loud sounds next to impossible with the way he's been playing the last couple of weeks.
I think honestly, if you get him to a situation, especially if they have the ball, this sounds crazy specific, but it's been something that's happened over and over and over again this year. If they have the ball on like the right hash and you have him close to the boundary, if you can flush him out to his right, I have seen repeatedly this year where he has refused to throw the ball out of bounds and take like a 4 to 6 yard loss instead of just dumping the ball out of bounds. And he did it a couple times against Auburn, but it was all going to his left. I don't know why that is. Yeah. So I think, and listen, if I'm seeing that, I'm sure Kirby sees something along those lines, right? Like, so I don't know.
I mean, you're definitely a better game planner and defensive schemer than Kirby Smart, but I hope he's on it. I hope he's on it.
Same, totally. Drew, the middle school team that I coached 15 years ago, we gave like 600 yards a game. So anyway, no, I think that like there's definitely ways to bottle him up. I think you also have to rattle him a little bit because he's playing with such confidence. The rattling of it, like the way Texas was, and I think that's a very different game because it's week 2. He doesn't really have his feet under him yet and all that kind of stuff.
Totally different.
But I really think that like when you look at what Bama's going to try to do, you'd be crazy not to think that it starts with him. I guess my question would be, after what we've seen with some team success against Georgia, especially Mizzou, do you think that Bama might try to lean almost too much on some of these stretch plays and getting Jason McClellan, some of these running backs, if he's not injured, on the edges?
No, that's exactly what you do. I mean, look what Georgia Tech did last week. Now, I know that's different, and of course, in-state rivalry, all that stuff, but Buster Faulkner, who's a great offensive mind, who has a lot of familiarity with Georgia, Parkview High School, the pre-snap motions, the lateral misdirection, all the linemen moving side to side, like they got Georgia out into the perimeter, and then what was Haynes King doing? I'm surprised they went away from it in the second half, but he was pulling that ball and getting upfield almost immediately. Now, in the traditional run game, if you try to run at Georgia, that's not a good recipe. And that was one reason why I thought they would have a lot of success against Ole Miss, is because Quinshon Judkins is a north-south runner, and they like to get upfield quick, and that's not how you beat Georgia. Nick Saban's not going to try to beat Georgia like that. That's exactly what happened in 2021. Bryce Young, he got outside the pocket really quick. It was that short to intermediate pass game, and they came out firing. So, no, you've got to attack Georgia that way. And, of course, Georgia will be ready for it in a sense. Jace McClellan's really come on as of late. But on the flip side, Kendall Milton has been playing the best football of his time at Georgia by a wide margin. So it could very well be one of those classic in the trenches, hand-to-hand combat, run game and defense, SEC championships. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was that way or if it breaks out into a shootout.
Yeah, I saw a stat where first half over, Georgia's gone over in 10 of the last 14 and Bama 8 of the last 12.
Wow, that's a great stat. I like that stat. I saw, the esteemed Connor O'Gara came out with his Alabama and Atlanta statistics today. And of course, there's something to be said for that. Undefeated in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, 8 straight SEC title wins, which is no small feat. 16-0 in Atlanta since 2008, 12 of those 16 wins coming by double digits. That's awesome. I mean, good for them. It's a new year. I will say that. And the one thing that I found this year that's interesting, and transitive properties in college football don't exactly go apples to apples, but they've had 4 common opponents. And Georgia's point differential is 12.25 points better than Alabama.
Yeah.
Cumulatively in those 4 games.
Well, on average,
they both
right?
played Ole Miss at home. Georgia beat Ole Miss by 38. Bama beat them by 14. They both played at Auburn. Georgia won by 7. Bama won by 3.
That fucking pick 6 at the end, man. Really.
I know, right? Georgia played Kentucky at home, beat them by 38. Alabama was at Kentucky, beat them by 28. And then Georgia went to Knoxville, beat Tennessee by 28. Bama played Tennessee at home, beat Tennessee by 14 points. So cumulatively, Georgia's 12.25 points better in their common opponents. So, I mean, take that what you will. I just found that to be interesting.
No, I think it's huge. I think that's huge. And Tyler, I don't know if I'm stepping on your question. That like kind of feeds into what I was going to say. I have 2 more questions for you before a prediction, and like I'll throw the first one out as, how many points do you think Bama has to get to have a chance at beating Georgia?
30.
30.
Yeah, I mean that my score prediction right now. We'll just get to it. I think I said 37-28, something like that.
Fair.
Like right around that number.
Yeah.
37. I mean, that's just kind of like the general, like high 30s for Georgia, high 20s for Alabama. I think that 30 number is an inflection point for Georgia's defense. That's kind of where it's been historically for Kirby Smart. But man, it's gonna be a great game. And again, like if Alabama shows what they're worth, depending on what else happens, it could be right into the college football playoff. I would not put that past the committee. And I also, there is a scenario where there's no SEC team, but I'd have a really hard time thinking the ESPN and college football playoff powers that be. I have a hard time thinking they would be able to get that one across the finish line.
Yeah.
Just from a dollars and cents perspective.
Yeah.
That's why they need to let us into that meeting. I want to know what
that's like the best idea, by the way.
Yeah, but why not? Make it pay-per-view. I'd pay.
I like that.
Chris, do we want to just give our predictions as well, or do you want to give one more question?
One more question. This is more of like a breakdown thing that I want to get your opinion on. We'll get you out of here, man. I really do. Those of you who don't know, we are recording this late. It's my fault. We ran a little bit late too.
As a guy who loves Nick Saban, I've always prescribed 5 minutes early is on time and on time is late. I think Coach Saban would agree with that. And Marler's texting me, hold on. It's like, okay, not like I have anything going on at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday night, but I'm here for you. It's championship.
I fired off that text to you, and I thought was hilarious at the time. And then as soon as I hit send,
you're like, JK. Obviously, I don't take it that seriously.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's my last like actual in-game like assessment or analysis for like that I want for you. If you're Georgia's offense, because I think that one of the things that's been awesome. I love the fact you brought up Kendall Milton. He has been playing his best football since he stepped on campus there. But if you are Georgia's offense, what are you going to do? Like, and I don't mean one guy, but like, how are you attacking the Bama defense?
Well, there's a number of ways to attack. First off, Brock Bowers, he's going to play. He's going to be healthy. You've got to rely on him and scheme ways to get him the football. But the biggest difference for Georgia in this game, and it rings true for every single one of these matchups, and this was an area which they struggled with early on in the season. They have got to score touchdowns when they get in the red zone. Yeah. If you kick field goals in the red zone against Alabama, it is a recipe for disaster.
Right.
And if you kick field goals against Alabama when you're in the red zone and you're getting 3 points instead of 7, and then maybe late in the game you end up missing one of those field goals, that's when the Alabama Sharks start circling the water and everybody in the stands sits there and goes, oh, shit. And then, of course, Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide walk out with a victory. So you've got to put them away when you have the opportunity to. Is that just relying on Kendall Milton, who's been running extremely mean? And I love to see that physicality. It could be, because he's been getting in the end zone. That's huge. Could it be Brock Bowers? Could it be Ladd McConkey? Greg McElroy said on one of the college football ranking shows a couple weeks ago, this Georgia offense, I think, has had one half legitimately when they had Amarius Mims, Brock Bowers, and Ladd McConkey all on the field at the same time. And he said that was the first half against Ole Miss, and they were essentially unstoppable. So they've got to just burn the ships in this game. You've got to get everybody out there. And I think not having Brock Bowers for that 4-week stretch during the season really freed up Carson Beck to just say, you know what, I'm going to utilize all my playmakers on the field.
Yep.
And it allowed him to start dialing up plays and getting the ball into everybody's hands. And he really progressed and was extremely efficient throughout that time. So spread the love, I guess, would be my 2 cents. Don't just key in on one guy. Obviously, you'd lean towards Brock Bowers. But all in all, you got to score touchdowns in the red zone. You cannot settle for 3. You got to take 7 against Bama, or else they will just hang around and find a way.
Oh, well, all right. I appreciate you joining us, man, for real. It always is a pleasure.
You just bummed him out, man.
You did. Well, also because he kept saying spread the love, and for some reason, offensive orgy came into my mind, and that kind of ruined my night.
That's weird, but
yeah,
okay.
totally. No, man, I don't think you're far off. I honestly, from a betting standpoint too, I was going to tell you, like, I think this is what I did for the national championship game. I think Stetson's was like his numbers were like over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think Carson will have that. And the other thing is, if you can get an alternate line with Georgia double digits, I think that's a really good bet here because I do. So here's the thing. We'll give our predictions real quick. I think the thing that scares me the most. No, actually, we'll give our predictions after you get off the thing because I gotta pee and I gotta regroup.
You want me to give my prediction?
You already did.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, we'll give ours afterwards. So I gotta regroup. I'll text you what mine is though.
All right. I mean, remember, my wife went to Bama. I mean, this is a heated rivalry in our household. And look, I know Bama fans can be insufferable, and Marler, you certainly fall into that mix.
You've always been so nice about my social media until this week.
But I will say this. There is a specific niche of Alabama fans that are by far and away the worst. And they are female Alabama football fans, specifically that started their fandom in the mid to late 2000s when Coach Saban got there. My wife is in that category. So when people say, how can you say that? It's because I've been married to one for 10 years. Okay. They're crazy. Their expectations are sky high. They expect to win every game by 50 points. If a play's not a first down, they're not happy. If I change the channel, she's like, why are you changing the channel? I'm like, it's because it's a commercial. She's like, we might miss a play. I'm like, I think we'll be okay. So I got to go into this game and just hope we can get out of there with the win in Atlanta because that has not happened. No. Right? So I got the big monkey off the back with the national championship. It's time for DB to just walk out of that stadium on top. It's time.
I understand why you're doing a 10 o'clock podcast on Wednesday. You're sleeping in that office tonight, aren't you?
Yeah, I might be in here Saturday night too. We'll find out.
Well, listen, man, we appreciate it for real. We'll have to. We'll definitely do it again. I'm sure during bowl season.
Yeah.
But also, I'm going to be in Atlanta starting tomorrow. So let's get a beer and stuff like that. We'll definitely chill.
That would be great.
That was kind of stupid.
That would be awesome.
Let's chill, bro.
Let's chill, bro.
Cheers, boys. Appreciate you guys. And go Dogs. Let's have fun this weekend.
No.
Let's come on.
Red wine?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you drinking?
Little Malbec. It's late. I gotta go to bed. There you go.
Love it. All right, dude. We appreciate it. Y'all make sure you go check out the Punt and Pass podcast. So waiting on my hat. I better get one while I'm there this week.
I got you.
We'll get at you soon, man.
All right. Cheers, guys. See you.
See ya.
He's the best. That was awesome. Put the thing back up there, though. I got to pee.
All right. You go. I'm going to start breaking down my prediction here. I've actually got a pretty similar prediction to Drew. Not quite as high scoring for either one. But I just look at the thing that I think separates Georgia here is kind of their performance and what you would say maybe key situations. They are 5th in finishing drives. So Drew mentioned that you got to finish with touchdowns. They're 5th in the country in points per opportunity in the red zone. Love that for them. 3rd down conversions, which is obviously a key down. They're number 1 in the country. And on defense, they're number 3 in the country in stopping 3rd downs. So I just think they're 3rd in success rate. So they can move the ball down the field. I mean, one of their weaknesses on offense is they're not too explosive, but they've been able to get it done without that. And Bama's 105th in stopping explosive plays, so they may be able to hit some here too. So my official prediction is going to be 35-24, Georgia.
I think that's a good pick. How's the hair? Awful? Cool. All right. Here's the thing, Tyler. So most of the show on this game, I think people kind of expected that. I have tried to put myself in a position to work myself up into a frenzy. I wanted this to be like a fun moment.
Strap up your chin strap.
Put on your
Lace
strap-ons. It's time for ding dong time. Let's go, roll tide, or however the saying goes. I wanted this to be a situation where, and I even ran it by in my head where I was like, at 4:00 on Saturday, you got to fucking tee up that football and line up and play Alabama. But every time I said it, even to myself, I just kept thinking like, God, you got to play Georgia. And so here's what I actually think is going to happen in that game. I think that Bama's going to surprise people early. I think that like one of the things that Drew said, like they've scored, their opponent scored first. Georgia has in like 6 of the last 7 or whatever it is. Tennessee scored on first in the last 3 years in a row. I think Ole Miss came back and scored like at least tied it up early. Their opponent has scored first in a lot of their games, and I think that's good for Bama to get confidence. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens early. I wouldn't be surprised if the first half is close, because a lot of the first halves that Georgia's played this year, even dating to South Carolina, not just Mizzou, South Carolina, like those games have been a lot closer than I think Georgia fans have anticipated. When I look at this game, what scares me is I think that Georgia can get away with at least 1 turnover and be fine. I don't know if that's the case for Bama, because this offense for Georgia is so lethal and so good, and they're operating so efficiently, especially when healthy, which I think they will be for this, that I just don't know where you stop. I love Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think he's awesome. I don't think that whoever he's lined up against, I think is going to have a very quiet day. Terrion Arnold, I think, is probably the most underrated defensive player at any position in the entire country. He has been incredible all year. I think that the thing that I heard from Clint Lamb, friend of the podcast, said earlier this week was like, maybe you just take your chances and you try to line up a physical freak with another physical freak and just shadow Brock Bowers with Caleb Downs. And I that excites me, because maybe that's something. Maybe the only thing I can even think of we're comparing that to is in that 2012 national championship when Notre Dame had some first round tight end, all world kid, and they put Bama's best defensive back, D. Milner, on him the entire game. And maybe that's what happens. But still leaves the chance that you can't stop the run. You can't stop Kendall Milton. You can't stop Dejon Edwards. How do you stop Oscar Delp? We haven't even talked about Dylan Bell, Ra Thomas. I think that Bama's going to be able to score some points. I think that you have to get this game late in the fourth. But what I truly believe, and I don't feel like this is an emotional hedge, what I truly believe is that I think this Bama team is better than people ever thought they were going to be. And I am proud as fuck to have watched this team from the start of the season to the end of the season. But I do think this is the end of the season for Bama. And I think that they're going to get a New Year's Six game. That's all fine. And I'm going to cheer as loud as fucking possible, and admittedly be insufferable if they somehow pull this upset. But Georgia has too much on both sides of the ball, I think, for 60 minutes against them. And what scares me the most about this game isn't worrying about Bama losing, because I do think they're going to lose. What scares me the most about this is if it gets late and Kirby wants to prove a point and show the entire fucking country, hey, this monkey, you guys thought it wasn't off my back, because I've heard some of the rumors and murmurs and all that kind of shit. After 2021 in Indy, if you didn't think it was off my back now, watch this. And that 7-10 point lead that I think they win by turns into 17. And I like Georgia to win. I think they win 34-23. And I think it's a really good game. But that's what I think is going to happen. I just think that Georgia is too good. I just think they're too good. And I think that this is going to be a game, like you heard about even some of the stuff coming out from practice, man. They know what's at stake, and they know what they're capable of doing. And if there's one thing that Georgia has done the best of any program in the country, besides distributing the football, man, when those fucking lights come on, when the brightest of lights come on, they show out. And I think that's what they'll do this Saturday, sadly.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. All right, let's go back to Friday, 8 p.m. on ABC. Number 5, Oregon, who's 11-1, versus number 3, Washington, 12-0. Washington, a 9.5 point underdog in this game, total 66. This game is played in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. You got two of the top 3 Heisman candidates in this game. You've got the 2 best ranked passing attacks. You got a rematch of a really good game earlier in the season. Oregon leads the nation in scoring differential. They're top 10 in scoring offense and scoring defense. Meanwhile, what is that? Washington leads, Washington, meanwhile, has played 6 one possession games this year, including 3 consecutive ones. And Oregon has just been laying waste to people as of late. Washington did get Jalen McMillan back at receiver, which is big for them. They didn't have him in the first game and still managed to win. I don't know, man. I just think the weakness in this game is Washington's defense. They're 104th in defensive success rate. Oregon's first in the country in offensive success rate. They should be able to move the ball down the field methodically pretty easily on Washington. And I don't think Washington's offense is as good as it was at the beginning of the season. I mean, they struggled to beat Arizona State, barely put up any points, against Washington State, who has been up and down the season, but scored 24. Earlier in the season, they were putting up 40, 50 points every game. I just think they've kind of come back down to earth a little bit. Another big stat differential. Oregon's 3rd in the country in converting third downs. Washington's 86th in stopping them. Oregon's a really good middle 8 team. So that last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half, they're top 10 in that.
Yeah.
I think Washington wants to leave no doubt that they belong in the playoffs. And I think they beat Washington by double digits, 38-24.
Yeah, so there's one thing I've been harping on with the Bama stuff. I can take this off now that I've already said I don't think they beat them. There's one thing that I've been harping on with Bama a lot this year, with Vegas specifically, is they seem to have been wrong a lot with the lines that they put out for Bama. Kentucky, they were a 10-point favorite. They win by 28. The other stuff, Auburn obviously is maybe it's an anomaly, whatever. But most of these games, they're a 3 to 7 point favorite. They win by 14. Texas, they're a 7 point favorite. They lose by 10. This whole thing with Oregon, Vegas seems to have them figured out a little bit more. And the fact that this game opened at 8 and has now been bought up to only 9.5. I think it's huge. I think that Vegas knows something. The games have been played in Vegas. I will say, I don't think any of us should be shocked if Washington's able to win this game, because going undefeated in the same conference as the team they're almost a double-digit underdog to is
beat
really,
already.
And beat already is really, really impressive. And I think Michael Penix has been awesome. I saw people chastise the notion that his Heisman moment might have been the third, or that it was 22-20 or whatever it was against Oregon State, and it was a 3rd and 2, and they ran a 12-yard stop route that he just put right on the back shoulder as a perfect throw. This kid is really, really good, and he's already put up a lot of numbers against an Oregon secondary that can be vulnerable. They can be vulnerable. I just think that Bo Nix is operating at a level that is crazy efficient. They've also got the run game going. And if you watch that Utah-Washington game, that was one thing that concerned me, was Utah was able to move the ball a bunch where they were able to, with a third-string quarterback, move the ball effectively. I just have to think that Oregon, the difference maker for me is probably Dan Lanning. And I know what he's got with Bo Nix, but Dan Lanning has shown time and time again that he knows how to get his players up for games, especially ones that matter. And this is a different team. I remember saying in our preseason stuff, man, I thought that Oregon was one thing I know they're not going to do is have an offensive line that only gives up 7 sacks. Look at halfway through the season, they did give up 5. It was they're just so physically tough, and I don't want to say dominant, even though they kind of are. I think Oregon's got too much for them. I think Washington will score. I do, and I love their offensive creativity and what they're able to do in some different sets, especially with the receivers. But I think in a long, short story long, I think Oregon does win. I think there's a reason why that line is right where it's at. I think that they need to maybe even put on a little bit for the committee and show why they belong. And for Washington, it just kind of seems like they're waiting for the wheels to fall off. So I think the final score for me, I'm going to say I think Oregon wins 41-28.
Okay. Crazy stat on Bo Nix. So his actual completion percentage is 78.4, but that also includes 24 drops. So if his adjusted completion percentage is 85.7%.
Right. Well, and then what's funny too is somebody, I forgot where I saw the stat, but somebody was like, he told Lanning, he was like, no, what we need to be operating as 85%. 85% is what we should be at. And then they're like, that's outrageous. And then like you look at his numbers and like with the drops, it's exactly what it would be. So
It's crazy. All right, 12 noon on ABC on Saturday. Number 18, Oklahoma State, who is 9-3 versus number 7, Texas, 11-1. Texas, when I took these notes, was 14.5. Drew said it's 15.5 now.
yeah.
Total 56. This game is in AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Texas has won 6 straight games ever since losing to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State has won 7 of their last 8. Weird stat that I didn't know. This is only Oklahoma State's second ever Big 12 title game.
The last one was 2 years ago, right?
I guess, yeah. I mean, like I just thought they had a little bit more success than that. Texas looking for its first Big 12 championship win since 2009, which seems crazy. Interestingly, Oklahoma State in their last 10 against Texas is 7-3 straight up, and 7-3 against the spread. So they have traditionally played well against Texas.
Yeah.
I look at this game. Obviously, Oklahoma State has the best running back in the country when it comes to rushing yards. He's Ollie Gordon. If you haven't heard of him, beast. Leads the nation with 1,580 yards. But man, I look at this Texas defense. They are stout. Nobody runs the ball on them.
No.
They're top 10 in every single advanced metric on the on rush defense in the country.
Yeah.
You can hit explosive plays on Oklahoma State, especially through the air. So I expect a big day for Quinn Ewers and A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. I don't know if I agree with Drew. He said, I think it's crazy that it's 15.5 is getting a little high, but I think Texas is a lot better team than Oklahoma State. And ultimately, I think Texas wins 38-21 in this game. Again, another team that may feel like they have to make a statement. If they're up 7 or 10 points in the fourth quarter, maybe they don't play it conservative. Maybe they go for the jugular. But I've got Texas 38, Oklahoma State 21.
I don't even know if Oklahoma State scores 21. I think you're spot on with what you're saying. Like we talk like Texas is, it's weird because they have a little bit of Ohio State to them where it's like, okay, well, Ohio State has a really, really good offense, obviously, because they have Ryan Day and all these like quarterbacks they put in, receivers they put in the NFL, blah, blah, blah. And like Texas has that. Like they've got a good quarterback, Quinn Ewers, who's been maybe not the year that they were hoping he would have, but he's had a really, really good year. One of the things I think we don't talk about enough about with Texas outside of the defense as well is this is a team that played almost 3 full games without a starting quarterback. I mean, they had their backup in for 3 games, especially like in the second half, like the second half of the season, like when it mattered most, right? And they've got a lot of talent in that quarterback room, but that's still very difficult to do and still be in contention for the national championship, as you would also know, right? Like it's just very difficult to do. I think that Texas, if there's anything that makes me believe that this is not close, because Ollie Gordon is awesome, right? 57-7. That game against Texas Tech.
Yeah.
They beat a team that Oregon beat by 8. They beat them by 50. And I think they're good enough to, if they really want to prove a point. And here's the thing, Tyler. There's multiple points to be made. Let's go be champions. Somebody saw Sark say in that locker room after the game against Texas Tech. So you get your first goal out of the way. Let's go win a championship and win the Big 12. Then it's, hey, let's win the Big 12 in our last year in the Big 12 with all the shit talk that we heard, even from the commissioner, like double bird, see you later. And then let's make the playoff and let's leave no doubt, because it's the team that has played multiple ranked opponents. They have the 13th ranked strength of schedule in the country. They have all these data points that would give them, like, I don't know how they're still being disrespected by the committee. I think they win by maybe 20 plus, to be honest. I think this is a blowout. So I think I'll say Texas 40, 4. That seems like a lot, though. That seems like a lot. You know what? I'll say Texas 38-13.
Okay. All right. Saturday night, 8 p.m. on ABC. Number 14 Louisville, who's 10-2.
I can do that one
Versus-
last.
No.
Okay.
Versus
Close
number
the show with Michigan, Iowa.
Fine. Saturday, 8 p.m. on Fox. Number 2 Michigan, 12-0 versus number 16 Iowa, who is 10-2. The line is plus 23.5 now, 22.5. Totals 35. This is in Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. I was talking in my office today about this game for about 20 minutes. What would you go over or under this total?
I wouldn't touch the total. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
35.5 for a championship game is stupid. I would say I would probably go. I don't know. It's like Harbaugh's back. Are they trying to win big? Or are they trying to actually we don't need to show anything and because they don't need to do anything to beat this team. Have you watched Iowa play?
Iowa's team total is 6.5. So I feel like it's a race to 10.
Tyler, the team total for Iowa, I'm looking at it right now. It's over on DraftKings. It's over 7.5, and it's plus 160.
Well, I liked it at 6.5 better because at least you can maybe get a fluke touchdown, special teams defense. Like I said, I don't like the 7.5. I can't get there.
No, I don't know how they would score.
Jeez. Right. So you just really is how much is Michigan going to score?
Right.
I mean, Iowa has played some. I was looking at it earlier today. They've won multiple games scoring less than 15 points.
That's almost fucking impossible to do. Not in 1923.
Yeah.
They constantly have I've never seen a team that has somehow, when I look at the ESPN scoreboard, the number 5 is on there, a singular number 5. It's 14-5. It's 5-3. It's 5
yeah. How do you keep getting 5?
Yeah.
I have I don't. This game obviously is the one that's not really in doubt.
Yeah.
I'm going 28-6. Every under.
You're taking the under.
Every under hits with Iowa.
It really does.
I'm going 28-6.
I just don't think they can score.
28-0.
I think so. Michigan, I'm looking at their numbers right now. They're at their number is 27.5. Their team total, which I love. Also, Michigan over. Here's the best bet of this game: Michigan over 2.5 total touchdowns.
Yeah,
that's a good bet. I think Michigan is clearly the better team. I don't know if there's I don't know if they're injured. I don't know any of that stuff. I don't know what they're trying to prepare for. I will say that there's got to be some part of them that's looking at this all right, what is on the horizon? Because we got our asses handed to us in Glendale last year in the semifinal by TCU. And what do we need to do to make sure that we are at least in the national championship game? Let's not give away too much stuff. Let's not do anything. And let's also not forget this. You were that game last year against Purdue wasn't completely not in doubt until the second half.
Yeah.
So I think that they win. I don't see how Iowa scores. I will say I cannot bring myself to saying the over. I think it's 34-3. I mean, this is the worst game.
You picked the over.
There's just there's no part of me that wants to partake in this.
Yeah.
This is watching, if you went to your friend's house and hey, I know we were going to play video games, but what if you just watched my family play Monopoly for the next 3 to 7 hours? You in? I'd be no, I'm going to call my mom and tell her to come fucking pick me up.
Who did Iowa play last week Minnesota, Nebraska. Yeah. So that was on Friday, and that's when I did Thanksgiving. My brother-in-law came over, and we were like, let's gamble on some games. Flipping through, I'm like, Iowa. I just can't do Iowa, Nebraska. I just can't. Like, I would rather go. I don't know, have my kids scream at me for an hour and endure that than have to watch the entire Iowa Nebraska game.
I will tell you, it was kind of fun. It's like, but only because like I got it at
13-10, right?
Final? It was 13-10. The over-under was 25.5. Okay. But like it was so right for like, okay, I'm taking the over. I'm gonna tease the shit out of it. Like that was like listen, if you're telling me that both teams are gonna be over or under 14.5, that's crazy. So it was easy to tease. I'll take Michigan. I think Michigan is a good team. I think that they're clearly the better team out of these two. Also, but shout out to Iowa for getting to 10 wins.
Yeah. I mean,
they have the worst 10-win team in the history of college football.
They legitimately averaged 18 points a game. And they have 10 wins.
How many points did they have to get to for his son to keep his job?
25. Not even close.
Per game. Which is 360. Yes. Right? No, it's 300.
360. Are you talking about total points for the year?
Yeah. 25 times 12, so it was 300 even. And they averaged 18. So 18 times 12 is like, hold on, 180 plus 36. So it's 216. So they need to score 85 points in this game for him to keep his job. I was telling this to Jeff today. I think there's a world where Jim Harbaugh would go up to Kirk Ferentz and be like, hey, listen, I get families. Totally get it, dude. If you promise that you let us win this game, I'll let you score 85. And just keep his son employed for like the long term because they need it.
We'll win this game 90-85.
Yeah.
Let's just all right. Last game here. 8 p.m. on ABC. Number 14 Louisville 10-2 versus number 4 Florida State 12-0. Florida State a 2.5 point favorite. Total 48. This game at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. So for those of you that haven't watched Louisville this year, which I assume most probably haven't, their offense is consistently ahead of the chains. They're 11th in success rate. They were 3rd in returning production this year on the offensive side of the ball, so a lot of experience on the offense. They don't hit explosive plays, and they're 105th in havoc rate allowed.
Yeah,
I like that. Florida State's defense is 5th in the country in havoc rate on defense, so I like that matchup for Florida State. They're 4th in the country in explosive plays, so I like that as well. They have a really good 1-2 punch at running back. Jawar Jordan's over 1,000 yards. The backup, Isaac Guerrero. Both of them averaging over 6 yards per carry.
Eddie Guerrero.
Right. Jamari Thrash at receiver. Really good receiver, 800 yards, 6 touchdowns on 56 catches. You can turn Louisville over, which is what I think Florida State's going to need to have like a couple turnovers in this game.
Yeah.
And if they want to win comfortably, I think they're going to need to have at least 2 turnovers. Plummer's thrown 11 interceptions. If you remember Jake Plummer, he's been kind of all over the country, but he was at Purdue with Jeff Brom last year.
Jake Plummer? Jack Plummer. I was like,
yeah.
Happening.
They're 53rd in the country in giveaways per game. Florida State is 1st in the country. They don't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I do like Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
Am I in love with the Tate Rodemaker offense thus far? No, but I also think
good dancer.
Great dancer. There was a lot of pressure on him last week to basically go into the swamp, first ever real start. And you can't lose to Florida with this Florida team.
No.
And so I think he was actually probably has more pressure on him last week than he does this week.
I agree with that.
It's not going to be nearly as hostile of an environment. And if you watch that game, which 5.7 million people did, so
love
sure
it.
A lot of people, he was put in terrible situations to start that game. We ran 3 plays in the first quarter in that game.
Okay, why?
They had like a long ass drive.
Oh yeah, you're right.
We went 3 and out, and then they had another long ass drive.
Okay.
So part of it was just like our defense couldn't get off the field, but they were holding Florida in check. Louisville will give up the explosive play. They're 121st in the country in giving up explosives. Obviously, Florida State kind of feasts off that with Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson. Louisville has a very aggressive defense. They're going to be sending the house a lot.
Yeah.
Florida State's two of their last three opponents, Miami and Florida, that's what their defenses do. So I like that Rodemaker's seen that at least against Florida. I think with another week, I think Rodemaker could settle in a little bit more, manage the game, let Trey Benson in the running. Louisville is very good at stopping the run, but I think Trey Benson, kind of what you did in the Florida game, 2 yards here, 3 yards here, and then hit an explosive. I like Florida State to win 34-24, win by 10. A lot of people are picking against them in this game. A lot of people want them out of the playoff no matter what. I think if you're a Georgia or Michigan fan, you want Florida State to win because you want to be able to play a backup quarterback. Pretty much everybody else wants them to lose. So I think with all the negative talk around them and are they deserving to get in, I think they've probably heard it. And they themselves are going to play very motivated. The whole shtick of the team right now is, finish for 13, Jordan Travis. And so I think they'll get it done. I don't think they'll get left out of the playoffs, but then I think they will probably get smoked by Georgia in the first round. So wouldn't be great, but I'd love to be there. And I'm just like you on this team, like you are on Bama. Like I've enjoyed the hell out of this season.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, like I'll be disappointed if they lose this game, but I'm not gonna be that disappointed because it's like, well, shit, Tate Rodemaker, like it is what it is. But
Tate.
Like I've just completely fell in love with this team and what they've been all season. It's been a hell of a time watching them. To think that 2 years ago we were 5-7 and lost to Jacksonville State. To be 12-0 now is pretty incredible. So I think they win and they complete their journey of getting back to winning the ACC. But we'll see. 34-24.
Let me ask you a question for some of these numbers, and you tell me what you think from an over-under standpoint, okay?
Okay.
Trey Benson, right? Running back? Mm-hmm. Over-under 92.5 yards.
Under.
Okay. Johnny Wilson, over-under 57.5 yards.
Over.
Keon Coleman, over-under 47.5 yards.
He's had a slow end to the season. He's been hampered by injury. That's pretty low, though.
Very low.
I'm going to go over as well.
So I think if you're Mike Norvell, you take Tate Rodemaker, and you say, hey, as soon as you're done doing that talk tick, is it called TikTok? Tim Tom. And you just come over here and I want to talk to you a second. And then he'll get done doing which I'm pretty sure he only knows one dance, and it's just the nay.
Yeah.
Just date it.
Well, but if you think about most white males, that's we've got one move and we just stick to it.
I can whip and nay. I'll be honest with you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I think if you're Mike Norvell, you say, listen, I just watched Louisville get beat. They got their brains beat in by, who was it, Pitt?
Yeah.
We're better than Pitt. Yeah. Also watch them get beat by Kentucky. We're better than Kentucky.
Yeah.
And then you say, listen, there's a lot coming at you, right? That was crazy. You're in front of 91,000, angry rival fans. Say what?
It got absolutely smoked. I'm not actually totally sure that he doesn't have a concussion and he's actually playing the game.
Also true. But then you say hey, listen, here's the deal though. This is all not on your shoulders. I want to show you a couple of people. Here's Trey Benson, one of the best running backs in the conference, if not the country. And if that's not good enough for you, we can just hand the ball off to him and beat this team because our defense is still really, really good. We're going to get after their ass, especially off the edge, the entire night. If that's not good enough, here's Keon Coleman. And here is Johnny Wilson, who's 1,000 feet tall.
And here's
throw the ball up
as well.
What's that?
Jaheim Bell as well. But Jaheim's been injured throughout the second half, but he had a big catch against Florida. They've got the weapons. Tate just needs to settle in, and he's got to distribute the rock.
So here's all the weapons we have for you at your disposal. And you're right. Keon Coleman has had a little bit of a slower into the season.
He got injured against, I think it was Wake, and he sat out the next game against Pitt and has been pretty lackluster ever since.
Either way.
Yeah.
I think you look at him and say, we are trying to get the college football playoff. When you, the longer the season goes on, it's more of the Kiffin whiteboard thing of the story that I've told 1,000 times on this podcast, which is draw the 5 fucking numbers on the board, whatever it is. And in this case, it's what, 88 or whatever, number 14, number 4, number 3, and number 6. And say, get them the fucking ball. Because Louisville cannot hang with us for 60 minutes. And I understand that, like, maybe people don't think that you're Jordan Travis, and Jordan's great. Jordan's not on this team right now. Right? Like he's with us in spirit. He's gonna be watching the press box. This is your team. What was Rodemaker out of high school? What was his ranking?
He was a 3-star. He was low 3-star, but he played at Valdosta High, won a state championship there, and won a state player of the year award. I mean, he wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I don't know why he was ranked so low, but yeah, he's son of a head coach. Like his dad was a coach on the team. What's that?
In hindsight, I wish I hadn't asked the question. Either way, I would tell this kid, I'd say, listen, like, you're a fucking quarterback at Florida State for a reason.
Yeah.
And you've got weapons everywhere. And you've got an offensive line to block for you. You've got an offensive coordinator and a head coach that believe in your talent. And I'd say the number one thing I that makes me think that they have belief in this kid to go win them a football game is honestly what they chose to do when he was out, which is, hey, we're still going to run the offense. We're not going to freak out, and we're not going to just run the football. First play from scrimmage with his backup, they threw the football against Florida. I think you go into this game and you say, listen, we're a better team. We're a better team than Louisville. And there's 22 fucking guys on that field and that roster that are going to impact this game. Like, there's 21 other ones that are going to impact this game just as much, if not more than you are. Like, just go out there, be a point guard, don't turn the ball over, and get the fucking ball to our playmakers who are some of the best playmakers in the country. And I think that he's going to be able to do that enough times, and the defense will be – I honestly just think that whenever I look at this Florida State team, and don't get me wrong, Tyler, like, if Bama wins, I will be pulling for Louisville. I love you to death.
100%.
You're one of my best friends, and I'm so happy that we can do this podcast together. I will be pulling for Louisville.
Yeah, you have to.
I just think that this is like one of these stories that we're not looking at through the right lens, and that is what an incredible story that we have, like, at our fingertips, and just been like a backup quarterback leading his team with, like, against all odds into the college football playoff, and on top of that, you get to do it in the weakest fucking conference. You are the class of the conference. Go win the game. Go win the game. Prove everyone wrong. I think you still get in. There's no way they put in 13-0 undefeated Power 5 champion on the outside looking in. So TikTok Tate, go win us a game. I think Florida State wins this game. The line scares me a little bit. I think they're able to pull away late, but I'll say I think Florida State wins probably 33-27.
Okay. Take that all day. All right. Well, that's going to be the show. As always, we really appreciate y'all listening to the show. It would really help us in the growth of the show. If you would rate us 5 stars on Apple and Spotify, leave us a review. We will read the best ones on air, and like and subscribe to the YouTube page. Don't forget to call the hotline 770-674-8233. We promise we'll play them this week.
Yes.
We did not do a lot of last week.
I said Bama wins.
Don't forget to check out the videos and clips from the show. That's at Sat Down South on Twitter, at Saturday Down South on Instagram and TikTok, and Saturday Down South on YouTube. For Chris, I'm Tyler. Good luck this weekend in all your games. We'll see you on Sunday.